Well, hello, this is Peter Combs from Bidamount.com and P.O. Combs Asian Art in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And as you can see, I'm not in New Hampshire anymore. I'm back on Cape Ann. It's been a busy week since getting back. Got caught up on a lot of things, and it's nice to be here. All right, a lot happened this past week, and we've updated the global member pages several times. We updated them again yesterday because a lot of things sold on Wednesday and Thursday of this week. There were some very nice results, and we're going to go through some of them. I wanted to point out a couple of things before we get there, though. If you come over to Bidamount.com, and many of you know how to do this already, this is just for those of you that don't, and you want to look up old auction catalogs and so forth, you come over here to the research objects in Chinese and Asian art, and the first one is for our cited directory over what's on Bidamount. And the first page is free catalogs, free auction catalogs and books. And if you come over here, right now there are over 545 books and catalogs on here, past auction catalogs. You know, Adrian von Furst's book on Chinese silver, things on. We just added some catalogs this week for the Sotheby sales here, and here, taking place in Hong Kong in a couple of weeks in July 10th and 11th, around that time. And there's some very interesting things in there, and they've done a good job because they must be desperate to get back to work over there. The Sotheby's, Christie's, Bonhams, all auctioneers at this point must have stuff stacked up to the walls. I think you're going to see some good auctions get underway once this the epidemic and everything gets squared away, because there's a lot of estates that need to be finished up. One of the books, one of the catalogs that they published, this sort of interestingly shaped one, it's very horizontal, is called Monochromes, and this is exactly what it sounds like. It's a absolutely fascinating catalog of all kinds of things, predominantly in single color, from pig jades to Chinese Ming furniture, late Ming, celadons, sculptures, lots of good. There's some really good furniture in it, some really fine lacquer pieces and so forth. But one of the things that's in here that's really interesting was something that belonged to Harry Chow. And if you don't know who Harry Chow was, he was a very famous dealer and collector who died around 1980, died a number of years ago. And in here, he has a jade Chenhua cup, but it's very much like the. Here's an image of it. If you've never seen one of these, they are incredibly rare. Here they are. Here's a pair of them. They do a whole write-up on them and comparing them to the porcelain Chenhua chicken cups. But here's a detail of it, and you can flip through and read up on it. It's kind of an oddball layout, but it works. And here are the original cups, and then the cup that's in this sale was based on one that was carved from jade using the same pattern. Unbelievably rare thing. I think the estimate is $1.2 to $1.9 million for this little tiny cup. Could go beyond that, but very fascinating, and it belonged to Harry Chow, all right, which is going to have a big impact on the price. It should. And then over here is Harry Gardner's reticulated vase. Last week, with the newsletter, if you haven't subscribed, you ought to, because it was on there and you get notified when we update the page each Friday, was this beautifully done Famille Rose reticulated vase that had belonged to Sir Harry Gardner, very prominent British scholar on Asian art. He owned some of the best things you've ever seen. And this had been passed down, apparently through his family, ended up in somebody's hands. They forgot they had it and ended up getting tucked away somewhere. And it has resurfaced after about half a century. And it'll be very interesting to see how this does. It's estimated at $9 to $12 million, somewhere around there, I think, something like that. It's got a pretty big estimate on it, but well-deserved and extremely rare. And they did a very fine write-up. There's Harry. They did a really fine write-up on the history of reticulated vases and the meanings of all the details that went into this vase. This vase is sort of a smorgasbord of Chinese art history, and you can read through and see why and how it was done. And Regina Crowell, I think, did the write-up on this. Good job. It's in Chinese and in English, obviously, and just a great thing. And they show you old bronzes that were done this way and all kinds of work. It's really good. Worth reading, even if you're not in the market for a multi-million-dollar object. And then over to this, there's another sale, Fine Chinese Works of Art, is this really fabulous rainbow, they call them rainbow monk's cap viewer. The coloration on these are vivid, strong, bright, not used often, but what's really great about this is they included some nice big photos, and you can enlarge this and take a look at it. By double-clicking on the screen, it pulls up this menu at the top, and you can pull this in right nice and close and really get a good look at the surface of a Ming cloisonne. And this is what they should look like. All those little funny little pits all over the place because the enamels popped when they fired them. And you notice that the colors, usually you might have a shade of a dark green to a light green, but all very different colors are always in their little cloisons. Like this is a green one, there's a blue one, yellow, red. They don't mix them together much in the Ming Dynasty, and that's one of the ways you can date them. At any rate, that's a heck of a thing, and it has a very strong estimate, as you might imagine. There's a lot written up about it, about the form. They did them in porcelain, of course, in red, and then later the Kangxi period they did them in Famille Rose and so forth. But at any rate, good stuff, estimated at $2.8 to $3.8 million. Very rare object, obviously. And then Marchant, 50 Qing imperial porcelains. All kinds of great stuff in here from the British family collection. They're dealers, of course, but they handle just great things. They're scholars, and a fascinating load of Mark and period objects. Just great stuff, including things like this vase and whatnot. You have to check it out. So check it out over in the research section on the site, as I showed you at the beginning. All right, now what's going on the global member pages? It was kind of a busy week, and we're going to hop over here. Here's a few. This is the landing page on the global member side, and a bunch of armorial plates turned up. Some very nice bronzes are now listed over at Sotheby's, so forth, over for the British sale. But in the auction results area this week, we added these. These are the pieces from Brian Page's sale that was held by Marsan just yesterday over in Bath, England. And the sale did fine. All these pieces, as I thought, did just great. They went well over, doubled all of their estimates. Very interesting things. These oil dishes did very well. And we're going to walk through them, and we're going to take a look at my favorite thing, which was that carved Kuan Yin seated figure. I just loved it. But this was something, before we get there, this was something that was at Friedman's that we had featured on the homepage. It was just a really lovely piece of silk, beautifully done. Early 1800s, possibly late 18th century, 1780 to 1830, somewhere in there, 1820. Beautiful quality silk. And everybody loved this at Hindman's, and it ended up selling for more than double its high estimate. It went for $9,000 US. Very nice looking thing, though. Just beautiful. Just so pretty. Love the apricot ground. And then on to this was that Kangxi Ball I talked about last week. And the estimate was $1,500 to $2,000. And I thought this was at Heritage for selling this. And I thought that was probably okay because they mentioned there was quite a bit of wear to the interior. And for some reason, I don't think the wear was as bad as they thought. Ended up selling for $6,250. But this was a nice sized bowl and had a very desirable decoration on it and was beautifully decorated, and it was mark and period. Okay. No, it was a Ming mark, rather, excuse me. But beautiful, beautiful quality. All right. And it did just great. All right. It's hard to tell from photos sometimes. I had an inquiry this week I wanted to mention about the vase that was at Skinner's this past week. Sold for $1.6 million. It was a Yongchen marked garlic neck vase. Somebody sent me an inquiry about it, but the photographs were so bad from Skinner's, I had to tell the guy, I don't think it's right. And I talked to a friend of mine who was at the sale, who examined it, and he said the photographs were a mile off. He said because I said, did it look like the photos? And he said, not at all. He said it was the blue was a different color, the foot didn't look like that, the mark didn't look like that. Again, it amazes me that auction houses can't get their act together to shoot tabletop objects with white balanced cameras, because apparently their cameras are not white balanced at Skinner's, so the coloration was way off. And we encountered it again with another inquiry this week on a Zhendi marked bowl at Hindman's. I still don't think it's a period bowl, but the color setup on their camera was so bad that the green line around the foot that should have been a sort of an apple green ended up looking like light blue, aqua blue. All right, if you're an auctioneer out there and you don't know how to do it, have somebody show you how to white balance your cameras so that the colors come through properly. Do not use automatic settings unless you want to give your stuff away, okay? Automatic settings on digital cameras, unless you are a pro and have incredibly good lighting, are not going to come out with your right colors. Just not. Learn how to white balance. It's simple. it's effective, and you won't have the problem that they had at Skinner's, and you won't have the problem that they had at Heineman's and a bunch of other auction houses, because we love answering the inquiries, but I always have to say based on the photographs provided because of this problem to do with white balancing. So just keep that in mind. If you see something that looks really good, ask them to take it outside and shoot some legit photographs with good light and try to get better colors. Okay. But anyway, back to Brian Page's sale. Here are all the items. Everything did fine, as you can see. All the little oil dishes brought anywhere from $220, which I think that was a great buy, all the way up to 400 and change, 450, 470, and so forth. Okay, and this one went very inexpensive. This nice little blue and white one went for just 150 euros. So bravo on that. And here's that dish I like. This just went for 220 euros. I think that was pounds rather. I think that was very reasonable. That was a very pretty little oil dish, very unusual. 220. And then this one with the landscape, I talked about both of these last week because I liked this one a lot. I thought this was just charming. And again, it went way over its estimate of 250 pounds to 460, but still not too much money for that at all. Not too much money. And then there was this beautiful suffused glazed jar, 48 centimeters tall or so, roughly 18, 20 inches tall. But nice glaze on it. The glaze on this was just beautiful. It's like that phosphatic glaze dripping down it. And ended up selling for 2,800 pounds. Did very well, but it's a big piece, and it's handsome. And if it struck your fancy, you're going to chase it. And a couple of people chased it. All right, and then on to this, that fabulous little wood carving of the Kuan Yin. Just an elegant little piece of wood, 7 or so inches tall, very delicately done, beautifully done fingers, beautifully done robes. Just great all the way around. There was nothing to not like about this little wood carving. Just an elegant little example. Maybe need a little bit of lemon oil or something if you want, but there's the bottom of it, rotted out like it should be. And ended up selling for 7,000 pounds, or about almost $8,000. But what a great little wooden carving! What a great carving! Had an 600 to 1,000 pound estimate, which I mentioned last week. I thought was awfully reasonable. Anyway, it did fine in the end. Everybody caught on to it. And then over here to this, these were one of the two sort of Blanc de Chine porcelain incense burners, early ones. Lots of use on this. This was the thing that I just loved about this. Was it had been used. Somebody used this a lot. Okay, this got a lot of love over its life. It's got cracks in it, probably from getting a little too hot. Being used as an incense burner, lines through it and so forth, nice dark lines. They did clean out the inside though, because it was probably pretty gooked up. But at any rate, ended up selling for 1,900 pounds. But I think that's fine. That's a great little object, something you're just going to own and love. All right. And the same thing for this one. This ended up being a relative bargain, which I don't really understand. But this was also a nice one. Same basic period. Had good photographs of it all around. Had a couple of chips out of it. That might have hurt the value, these chips. And if it bothers you that much, I hope whoever got it doesn't care, because I wouldn't care one bit. And I just love this piece, and I love the interior. It's all nicely turned out. Same age as the other one. It's got an old tag on the bottom, which sort of adds to the interest in some writing here. They had it originally as Sung. There was a time up until not that long ago that a lot of these white cracklewares were all cataloged as Sung. The Bernat family, the famous Bernat collection here in the Boston area, had a bunch of this whiteware that they all thought was Sung until a number of years ago, 20, 30 years ago, and they found out that they weren't. They found out that they were all sort of late Ming, early Qing, but mostly later Ming. And I have a feeling that based on the poor scholarship at the time, they had cataloged this as Sung. There it is. See, it's not Sung. These are later, but in a number of museums, and I think this is one of them, may have been dumped. When museums found out that their Sung pieces weren't Sung and just Ming, they dumped them years ago. The Bernat collection, I ended up buying a whole bunch of those just because the family didn't want them. I got them through somebody. Anyway, 550 pounds for that. That's not bad. All right, that was a nice buy for 550 pounds. I hope one of you bought it. Okay, now let's take a look and see what happened on the newsletter side last week. If you haven't subscribed to it yet, please do. You just come over. It's free. We update it every Friday. You click this, put in your email address. We don't share email addresses with anybody, ever. And we get asked often, and we don't. We just simply don't. Any rate, sign up for it. And on here, we have the things that we find on eBay each week that we like, things that are for sale that look good to us, and as well as over on the Catawiki page. And this was last week's page. There was a lot on here. It was a pretty busy week, but the prices were very good. And as you can see, Catawiki has a lot of stuff too, and they have a lot of Japanese materials. You want to check that out. But at any rate, some of the things that sold last week, one of them is this. If you don't have this book and you like Chinese porcelain, you should probably get it somehow. It's expensive. This one sold for $326. But it's the original Gerald Davidson book on marks, Chinese porcelain marks. It's just a very valuable tool to have. Over the years, I bought a number of them because I made the mistakes of loaning them out to people. And I can tell you from experience, they never come back. All right, if you get a copy of this book, hang on to it. This is a revised edition. He keeps up with it. They keep revising it, adding new stuff as they go along, and it's never inexpensive. It's always up there a little bit, but it's a valuable tool. And this one sold for $326 used. Okay, but it's in very good condition. All right, you want to keep them in good condition because you're going to carry it around with you. I used to keep one in my car, one in my office, one at my house. I had them everywhere. Anyway, and eventually I'm down to one. All right, now on to this very pretty figural landscape bowl, 18th century Qianlong period, nice piece, 10 inches across, as I recall, and ended up selling for just 461 euros on Catawiki, unreserved. That was a nice buy. I hope one of you got that. And then over to this. This was a steal. This is a mystery to me, and because I believe it was in fairly good condition. It was this very nice rose mandarin pre-1850 sleeve vase with a gilt ormolu European mount on the bottom. Just a beautiful package. And it was about 18 inches tall, so it was presentation, had a good presentation size to it. And somebody picked this up. Get ready. 290 euros. That was inexpensive. We'll put it that way. That was a great buy. I thought the 600 to 700 euro estimate was more than reasonable, and I wasn't going to be surprised if it went over it. But that's an elegant looking thing, and wouldn't it look fabulous with some long stem roses in it. Any rate, 290 euros. What a great buy. And then over here to this. This was listed by Jonies up in Canada as a puzzle pot, and as many of you know, it's not a puzzle pot. It's a lime pot, and for beetle nut chewing and all that. And this was a very nice one, though. It was nicely done, good colors, bamboo handle with the vents in it and so forth, inscribed on the back. All right, just a nice piece all the way around, 19th century, and it ended up bringing $2,036. All right, which is a good price for that, but it was a rather good one and had the inscription. If you took the inscription off, it would probably cut the value by more than half. All right, and then over here, our friend Josh up in New Hampshire had a sale, Juice 1499, also known as Chamberlain Antiques. He had a nice sale that closed on Monday, and in this sale, he had a whole bunch of these netskis that he'd picked up. Beautiful netskis. Tsubas rather. Very, very nice Tsubas. And there was, I think we put 15 or 20 of them on the site because I loved them. I like this one particularly. I love the figures in the gilt robes. He's got a broom, and they're looking up at the rising moon coming through this, and the way they cut away at the iron to make it look like clouds breaking. I just think it's so clever. Just really clever. And I think this, by the way, this Tsuba was a steal, whoever got it. I think it was beautifully done and went for a very reasonable amount. But nicely done on both sides. Here you have a mountainous landscape with pagodas and temples on them and so forth. And somebody picked this up for $355. That is just a great little piece of Meiji period ironwork with gilding and silver and so forth. Just a great thing. And then on to this. This was that fan last week. I put this up and I mentioned last week I like the back better than the front. This is the back of it with these little warehouses along a canal and these boats and so forth, and these beautifully, probably Canton, and these beautiful reticulated carved ivory fan blades. A little damage to them here and there. The front of it was just a more traditional fan. This is the face of the fan, the front, with the figures in the landscape scene and so forth. And it's perfectly nice. It's very standard, nothing unusual about it. But the back of it was quite terrific, and the seller decided to show this more than the front for obvious reasons. And it ended up selling for $872, which I think was just fine. It was a nice-looking fan, unusual subject matter, had a little break in it, needed a little tender love and care. But other than that, it was an interesting thing, and it didn't have its box, so it still did just fine. All right, and then on to this. This was that very beautiful Famille Rose Yixing pottery basin. It was over 13 inches tall, beautifully decorated, though, just stupendous. You do not see Yixing decorated like this very often, nor on a piece this big. And here's that beautiful cloud back on it, light with that beautiful blue with the flowers and the sort of cloud pattern running around. Just great. Loved it. Look at the border, all that beautiful work in there. And then the cavetto with these interspersed spiraling flowers and so forth. And a lot of people really liked it. It ended up selling for $7,388. And wow, what a nice thing. And these kind of bowls don't turn up often, and that's why it did so well, because Yixing pottery bowls with big landscapes are just very unusual. And that was a nice one. All right, and then over to this. This was another interesting thing that Josh had up, Juice 1499, was this pair of Chinese export 18th century garniture vases with this nice sort of net pattern turquoise ground, and then these very elegantly done panels running around the outside. And what this had really going for is that these were big. These are over 18 inches tall, which is a bit is on the big side for these. These typically aren't that big. They're 11 to 13 inches, somewhere in there. Above 15 inches is very unusual for these. These were nice, like the Fu Lions on top, and ended up selling for $4,900 for the pair. All right, so if they were bought by a dealer in a major city, there's money left in these. These could sell out in New York City. A dealer can get $12,000 to $15,000 for a pair of these. But very nice. But you have to pay New York City rent to get them. All right, and then on to this. You had this pair. There were two of these paintings, these nice figural scenes with the landscape outside, the terrace. And here they are. This is, a nice day. They got the doors open. They're talking, and you have this wonderful big crackleware Qinlong jar in the background, and just interesting. And all framed, matted, and ready to go for $1,713. And always keep in mind when you look at these, you don't have to get them framed if you like the frame. And a frame job like this, a good quality framing job, is going to run you anywhere from $350 to $600, depending on what you pick for a frame. And you can spend a heck of a lot more. If you get a Guido frame, you could spend much, much more. Triple that. All right, very nice. And then he also had this one, another one, similarly interior scene. I hope whoever bought them both, because they'd probably display beautifully together, or one above the other, and so forth. And here's another one, very similar, again, vases and fresh fruit and so forth, in this sort of, beautiful Chinese life. They've got their silk banner going out for the day for shade. Just lovely. And this one sold for $2,145. All right, and that's fine too. The prices of these paintings seem to be coming up a little bit. I had actually talked to Josh. I said, normally these bring $1,000 to $1,300, $1,400. These did better. All right, and then on to this. The Underglaze blue and red round jar, 18th century, nicely done, nice decoration. And the Underglaze red on this was quite successful. I didn't notice any green burns in it. One of the things that often happen with Underglaze red is the copper oxide, the copper that makes up the color when it fires. If it oxidizes improperly, it will turn green on you, and you get these green splotches. This one didn't seem to have any. It looked to be in good shape. And the bottom of it is. Here's a picture of the bottom of it, pretty typical 18th century work right there and there. Nice and very smooth and creamy where it's been resting on surfaces. This sold for $4,258, and as you can see, it was probably about 10 inches tall. But nice example, well painted, and with a good iron red in it. Iron red makes a big difference. And then on to this, the Tuanxi pair of bat and Schaumark plates. Nicely done. The seller is Kangxi 0219 is the seller of this. And he said that there was some wear to them, and he may have just been covering himself just so if anybody said there's a tiny bit of wear, he didn't want to say they were perfect. But they looked to be in awfully good shape to me. And in the end, they brought $921, which is absolutely fine. Now, let's see here. There. This another piece of Yixing. Hay fever around here today. Wicked. All right, now, nice looking piece of Yixing. And what was unusual about this was that it has this very nice raised work here with the bird in colored and pigments, and then these peonies coming up, and then these nice Famille Rose colors around the top. And a lot of people like this. Ended up selling for $1,275. Not bad at all. And then we move over to this. This is many of you know what this is an inscribed pewter teapot with a Yixing liner and jade handle. The seller said that it had some damage repaired to the handle maybe or something. I can't really see what it was, but at any rate, it was enough to scare people away from it. And it ended up selling for just $640, which I think is extremely reasonable for one of these, even with the minor issues. But nice looking pot, and I hope a Yixing fan bought it. All right, and then on to this, the seal. This was a very nice seal. This was Digger Studio. A guy up here in Massachusetts had this over in Drake. He gets nice things. He knows what he's doing. And this was a very good one. And seals are always of interest, and depending on what the seal says, impacts the price. But they typically sell for anywhere from $3,000 or so up to about $6,000. This one sold for $6,701, which is sort of on the upper edge, unless it's from obviously an imperial set or something like that. And then on to this, the transitional Three Friends of Winter jar. This is a beautiful example. It had the pine tree, the bamboo, and the plum blossom tree running around it on the back. We'll get to that in a second. There it is. And nice looking jar. Nice looking jar all the way around. A lot of people liked it, and it ended up selling for $3,561, which I think is fine. Nice looking pot. And then over to this. I had a couple of inquiries about this one. This was a very fine. It almost looked like celadon. Again, somebody didn't do a great job with their colors because it's actually white porcelain. There it is. And it has this very nice Famille Rose decoration all the way around with butterflies and animals and whatnot. It has the original lid, original finial, but the way it's shaped is quite desirable. The shaping on this was very nice. It was probably made about 1830 to 1850, pre-1850. Nice looking thing. And I think it was a good buy, $593. Perfectly nice thing in a fairly rare form. Can't beat it. And then over to this, that charming rank badge with the Fu Lion in the middle. And what was really nice about this was the expression on the Fu Lion's face. It looks very much like a pet dog. The way he's got his mouth open, his tongue out, he's sort of coiling back like a puppy. Just really charming, just beautifully done. And the rest of the work was excellent. The scrolling clouds, the sort of curved linear design elements all the way through, and it just draws your eyes to that one happy little Fu Lion. And then you have the bat and Shao character border, and it ended up selling very well. It went for $3,700 because it was just so charming. Sometimes the animals don't have any character. This one had character, it had a lot of personality. Nice looking thing. And then on to this. This was a bronze that Josh had up, a Shing Bronze, done like an archaic one, but nice color, good shape all the way around. Ended up selling for $3,950. So that did pretty well. And then last is this. This was over on Catawiki, and I think this was a great buy. They listed it as Okimoto, and I always think of Okimoto. I know what it means, but I always think of them as being smaller things. This was a big bronze. And I think maybe they shouldn't have put Okimoto in the title because a lot of people think of Okimoto being something small that you hold in your hand. This thing was over a foot tall. It was a cast bronze, just beautifully done, Meiji period, signed, and somebody picked it up for 476 euros, which I think was a great buy. Just a really nice piece. And it was it was signed by somebody named Wako, and it was a figure Nomen Zo. All right, so nice looking thing. And then what's coming up this week? Some of you have already seen them because they're on the page. We'll put them back. We'll get rid of the stuff that's sold, obviously, but there's still some things on there that are be coming up. One of them is this very nice garlic mouth dragon coiled late Ming, early Qing bronze vase. Has a tiny bend in the foot, but I think you could probably get it fixed. It's up to $229, and it closes on Sunday. And then over here is this. If you like bronzes, if you like later bronzes, this is a nice pair. They're about 7 or so inches tall. They look big in the photo, but they're actually about 7 inches tall. These nice high-foot bronze incense burners with elephant handle masks on it. Interesting relief work on them. Probably 1850s or later, but good quality, nice looking. They're up to just $46, okay? And the shipping's pretty reasonable because I'm in Massachusetts and the seller's in California, and the shipping's only $32. So you might give those some thought if you're looking to buy a bronze. And then there's another bronze is this Chinese figure of the woman. We talked about it last week just because I loved it. Nicely done. Here's a picture of her face up close. Beautifully done, 7 inches tall. It's up to just $81. It's early Qing. I don't think it's the 19th century. I think it's older than that. But in any event, it's a nice one, and it closes in a couple days. And then over on Catawiki is this really, really pretty Famille Rose platter. Very unusual pattern, black background with this gilded fishnet pattern over it. And then you have these intertwined vines running around the outside with roses and roses in the center. Just a beautiful thing. Obviously an export piece. And it's up to just $86, and it closes tomorrow, Saturday. So if you like this, you might want to check that out tonight, do it rather sooner than later. And then there's this another good bronze, again 7 or 8 inches tall, early Ming, but nicely done, very nicely done. I really like it. And that closes on Saturday. This also closes tomorrow, 8:57 p.m. Okay, so check that out. This is Rare Book and Art, has that up. They got a number of things up. They haven't sold a lot, but that's a nice thing. All right, that's about it. If you haven't subscribed to us yet over here on YouTube, please do, and share the videos. So somebody asked me if they could put one of my videos on their site on a topic. I said, yeah, absolutely. I don't care. Go ahead. It's good. It's good for the logarithm and all that. It's good for traffic. And come over to Bidamount.com and check out the free newsletter page each week. Sign up for it if you haven't already. And if you haven't joined the global member pages, you might give it a shot. There's a lot of stuff on there that we find that is not on eBay, obviously, and not on Catawiki, but on the other sites. And it takes a bit of work to find this stuff, but we find some interesting things and like sharing them. All right. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll be back next week, and we're doing some things with the site, and we're working on a couple of projects, and we'll see you all next time. All right. Bye-bye.